The former U.S. Defense Secretary, former CIA Director, of course, the former White House Chief of Staff. Secretary, always good to have you. What do you make of just the confluence of these crises all in the same day, within hours apart? Of course, the Iranian ship now in the Red Sea, the Hamas attack, and you know, the counterattacks. I mean, it is getting involved.
Well, there's no question that that it increases the danger of escalation in the Middle East. The killing of Hamas leader in Beirut obviously raises the specter of Hezbollah doing something in retaliation. The over 100 Iranians killed by these explosions raises concerns about what Iran will do. There are continuing attacks on the United States. I mean, there are 5 more attacks that have taken place in Syria and Iran against U.S. forces, and that remains a concern as well. And then add to that the fact that there's an Iranian warship in the Red Sea, and there are continuing attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea, raises real concerns about whether or not it'll escalate with the Houthis. So we are at a point where, without question, there is a real danger of escalation in the war in the Middle East.
Well, when it comes to attacks on U.S. forces, that escalation's been on a while, to your point, Secretary. There have been 118 attacks on U.S. forces. The attacks have come at about 10 times our response to them. Do you think the administration is being too tepid in its response, almost too cautious?
Well, look, there's no question that we have a duty to protect the lives of our forces. And when our forces come under attack, either by drones or missiles, we have a responsibility to take whatever necessary action is necessary to protect our forces.
But we haven't done that. We haven't done that, right, Secretary? Isn't that the attack line that we have not attacked enough back, and that the Houthis know this, and it could explain why, you know, they were firing more anti-ship ballistic missiles, that they're not getting the message?
Well, the only way you're going to get real deterrence from these attacks is to make sure that every time a missile is fired, we go after whoever fired that missile and make sure that they pay a price. That's the only way we're going to have strong deterrence.
No matter where that missile is fired from, Secretary. I'm sorry, I'm very rude here, but I just want to be clear that we know these missiles, by and large, are fired from Yemen, but we're very leery to fire back at Yemen. But that is from where these attacks seem to be originating.
Well, my view is that wherever these attacks are coming from, we have a responsibility to go after those that are trying to kill American forces. So I don't think we ought to hesitate. If a missile is fired, if a drone is fired that threatens U.S. lives, we have a responsibility to go after those targets, period.
So the fact that we don't go to Yemen, some say that is sort of like a third rail we don't want to cross. I don't think it's as big a third rail or dangerous a rail as, let's say, going after Iran, in Iran. But to your point, that's where these attacks are coming from. We're not responding.
Well, and that only creates a greater incentive for them to continue these attacks. You know, look, I understand the dangers involved here. We all do. We certainly don't want to enter into a world war in the Middle East. But at the same time, we have a fundamental responsibility to protect American lives. And we have to do everything necessary to make sure that we protect them in any way possible. So I just think we have to be a lot more aggressive at providing the kind of deterrence that will protect American lives, period.
But is this response, Secretary, adequate? We're learning right now that attacks by Yemen's Houthis on commercial shipping threaten, this is the U.S. response, international rights and freedoms in the Red Sea. And we are facing a global challenge that requires a global response. Why not just our response? And why not just to these Houthi rebels in Yemen? I don't want to sound overly repetitive here, but it seems like we're trying to spread the response to the rest of the world when they seem to be targeting us.
Well, look, I think it is important to get our allies to join in this effort. I don't think it ought to just be the United States responding, particularly when you're dealing with commercial traffic in the Red Sea. That's a responsibility of the international community to deal with that threat. But it should not in any way inhibit the United States from responding if there are threats to our shipping or to U.S. Navy vessels. I think we've got to show that we're not just going to kind of hold back, but we're going to be aggressive at going after those that are attacking these ships in the Red Sea and attacking U.S. forces. That just is unacceptable, period.
I'm just wondering as well, we don't know the origins of this attack, you know, on the 4th anniversary of this Revolutionary Guard leader, Soleimani, in Iran. We don't know who was behind that. Some have suspected Israel. Israel says that's not the case. But we do know that Iran probably plans a response. What do you think that might be?
Well, I would imagine that they are going to have some kind of response. I think they've got to be careful. The fact is that this really looks like a terrorist attack. It's not the kind of attack that Israel usually conducts when they're going after a particular target. This involved killing over 100 people, more than 100 people, in Iran. And it smells an awful lot like terrorists like ISIS or opposition forces in Iran. So I think they better be sure just exactly who's responsible for this before they decide to suddenly go out and start attacking others.
You know, we did have oil run up a lot today, Secretary, on fears that this is escalating there. Now, it could change on another day. We were up a few bucks and oil is still relatively low. But do you fear that this besides what's going on in the Red Sea where ships can't navigate, now oil prices that could rocket from here, hard to say, that this is now a global economic crisis, or could be?
Yeah, Neil, look, what the danger is here is that as these events take place, it increases the possibility of some kind of miscalculation or a misjudgment of some kind that expands the war in that region. And I think the thing we have to worry about right now, considering the number of ships in the Red Sea that are facing off against each other, considering the kind of attacks that are taking place here across the Middle East, I think the real danger is that somebody miscalculates and we find ourselves in a larger war.
I'm sorry, I said that was the last question and I lied. I just wanted to get your thoughts, Leon, on the president. Not only his handling of this, but you've seen his poll numbers. You've seen the shift among traditionally reliable Democratic groups, African Americans, Hispanics, women, young people, leaving him in droves. Do you think he's up to this election?
Well, Joe Biden has 40 years of experience in American politics in one way or another. He's been through an awful lot. And I think that he knows that he's got problems right now. And I think it's very important for the president to be able to really focus on what does he want to do for the future of this country. I think he's got to have a vision presented to the American people about where he wants to go and what he wants to do. It's not enough just to talk about the past. It's not enough to talk about what he was able to deliver to people. It really is about what is his vision for how we have a strong America in the future.
Well, he's apparently
that's what
not
he's got to focus on,
he's not
and that's what people want to hear.
It's ticking off a lot of typical and usually reliable Democratic constituencies who seem to think at this time, and it could change, to your point, a disaster.
Neil, the worst thing you can do in politics is play defense. The only way you succeed in politics is by going on the offense and presenting a clear image about what you want to do in whatever position you're running for. That's the key to winning elections. And I think it's important for Joe Biden to realize that he's going to have to change that message if he intends to win the election this year.
All right. Thank you very much. Julian Panetta, the former Defense Secretary of the United States, former CIA Director, former White House Chief of Staff.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.